Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship.
It's definitely an opportunity to share and show people that no matter what's going on, you can really celebrate what you're meant to celebrate and what God intended us to celebrate. When you live committed to freedom and you know that the people that you love and the people around you in your community are standing for that same freedom, you don't negotiate your freedom.
This is really exciting. I feel like it's just happened so fast, but perfectly, if that makes sense. Let's do this. Let's do a protest marriage. Let's stand in love. Let's stand in freedom, and let's stand in the possibility that we can all do this.
Just because we deserve something doesn't
Right.
mean it's given to us, right?
We have to take it.
We are gifted rights and freedoms by God.
Hashtag truth.
We're here at the location in Cary Park of the protest wedding. Behind me on stage is Pastor Art and Pastor Heather Lucier. You might have seen them in previous reports at rebelnews.com. And by the way, if you haven't already gone to our website, please do. Big Tech is trying to censor us from giving you the other side of the story. So if you give us your information, like your email and your phone number, that's the only way we'll be able to keep bringing that to you. Now, let's see what transpires at this protest wedding!
Let a shout go to the King of Kings.
People in Canada have suffered a lot over the last year, and a lot of it has been from COVID restrictions. Things like freedom of religion, the right to be able to open your business and see loved ones and friends. But let's not forget the celebration of marriage, weddings, a cultural thing that we do, that we held high, has been limited. And in British Columbia, it's to only 10 people, including the bride, the groom, and the person doing the marriage ceremony. But not today. I'm with Cam O'Brien, who is bravely doing one of maybe the first that's happened in Canada, I'm not sure, a protest-style wedding to Kacy. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling really good. It's definitely an opportunity to share and show people that no matter what's going on, you can really celebrate what you're meant to celebrate and what God intended us to celebrate.
Absolutely. We are so honored from Rebel News to be able to cover this special day with you, and we can't wait to see your future bride. So, Kacy.
Yes.
This is Kacy. How are you feeling on your wedding day?
I'm feeling good. This is really exciting. I feel like it's just happened so fast, but perfectly, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Let's know a little bit about your guys' relationship. When did you guys know you were the one for each other?
Well, for me, it was August 12th, 2017.
That was the same day for me as well.
And that's the day that we met.
And they gave their lives to Jesus. I want to introduce to you Cam and Kacy. Come on up here.
Thank you all. Wow, I look around and you are so beautiful. Wow. I think this might inspire a lot of people. I know this is inspiring, but I want to share my story. I think it's going to be really, really profound.
I had just come back from a backpacking trip in Peru. So I was there for about 3 months, just discovering myself, figuring out who I was. I wasn't necessarily looking for anybody. I just was looking for me, really, focusing on my growth. And then I met someone there, and he was just like, you need to go home. There's a calling. And I am really, I listen. Mm-hmm. When God speaks through other people, I listen. And I'm like, okay. So I went home. And then basically a couple days later, because I was into a lot of personal development stuff, and I went to the seminar, and it was all about living an extraordinary life. And the leader was just like, okay, so I want you to take on something in your life for the next 8 weeks that's something you've never done before. And for me, I'd always been about career and business and all that, and I'd never really intentionally created a relationship. So I was ready. I felt like I'd done a lot of soul searching, and I was ready. So I was like, okay, I'm taking on a juicy, passionate relationship with responsibility. And then basically 2 days later, I met Cam.
It was amazing. We were on this kind of boat cruise in the middle of Lake Ontario, and no drugs, no alcohol, very clean, more meditative and spiritual, high vibes, great stuff. And I was just kind of, I had my camera, I was a photographer, I was taking pictures, and I saw this beautiful woman in a red dress, and I started taking photos of her, and she started posing for me, and with the water as a background, it was beautiful, and then she said thank you, she just kind of mouthed a thank you through, and I saw it through the lens of a camera. I lowered my camera, and our eyes met, and it was from that moment that there was this undefinable connection. The next day we said we love each other, and then less than 3 months later we were living together, and the rest is history.
Almost 4 years later, here we are.
Wow.
Traveled across the country, have our own business, creating this incredible life for ourselves, but just taking it on day by day.
And speaking of taking it on, we're about to go to your protest wedding.
I know. It's crazy, right?
Yeah. So what inspired you guys to do it that way?
Yeah, that's a great question. Honestly, we'd both known that the right time would come for our wedding. We truly believe we're here on earth. I mean, all of us are here on earth for a purpose. It's just whether you tap into that or not. And so for both of us, it's we know we're here for big things, and we just let God guide us, the spirit, universe, whatever that means for people. But for us, it's a very clear calling. And so we just, tried to get a marriage license a couple months ago here and there. It just never worked out. And then last week we went to church, and we were just so inspired, and the Holy Spirit just worked through us. Wednesday we met with Pastor Art, and then we're let's do this. Let's do a protest marriage. Let's stand in love. Let's stand in freedom, and let's stand in the possibility that we can all do this. It's not something that is, it's something that Cam said to me the other day. I think we saw it in a movie or something, but it was just because freedom is yours doesn't mean it's going to be given to you. Is that the line?
Just because we deserve something doesn't mean it's given to us, right?
We have to take it.
We are gifted rights and freedoms by God, by the universe, by the planet we live on. Everything is our birthright, and we deserve it. And every generation needs to stand for freedom.
Wow.
And for love. It's very important. More than ever, we have to open our hearts, live in our truth, be courageous, because that's what's going to help us move through this. So that's really what inspired all of this, all of it coming together. And just, go ahead.
Last question before we head out now. Pastor Art, we've actually covered some of his open church, and it's become sort of a protest service sort of thing as well. But, he went through a bit of persecution for being open. They got fined, and they had some, hate from the community. Do you guys have any fear about that, about being fined on your wedding day, or backlash from the community about this?
That's a great question. Honestly, I didn't even think about it. That's probably the easiest answer.
Yeah.
I just don't think about that stuff. It doesn't. I mean, is there anything for you about it?
Well, for me, it's not really a consideration. It's you live in a space of freedom, and when you live committed to freedom, and you know that the people that you love and the people around you in your community are standing for that same freedom, you don't negotiate your freedom. You stand for it. You live it, and you just trust that everything will work out, and that you're protected and guided, and that you're always going to be loved and safe, and it's just important to stand for what you believe in.
Yeah, that's well said. And I think just to answer your question a bit more deeper, I feel no matter what we do in life, there's always going to be haters.
Ain't that the truth?
Right? Truth.
Haters
#truth. Whether you're getting married during a pandemic, you're starting a business, or you're trying to, be successful, or whatever it is, there's always going to be people that are going to like you and people that aren't going to like you. And I'm just standing in the truth that the people who are connected to this wake up. Yeah. And that's what this is about.
Absolutely. Well, let's go get married.
So friends, and family, and those who are just simply watching on the Canadian Firewall, we know that this is not necessarily normal. We're not in normal days, but this young couple, as a sign wanting to get right with God, being saved last week, we needed to celebrate this moment with you all and with the internet and even with Rebel News. We welcome Rebel News here today. And so Rebel News was already on their way over here. By the way, we want to give a shout out to the True News, Rebel News, the media in the nation. Thank you to Ezra Levant. Thank you, Ezra and team, and Drea being here today and the cameras. Take her left hand and on her wedding finger. So what we're going to do is you're going to repeat after me. I can. Do take you, Kacy.
Do take you, Kacy.
To be my lawfully wedded wife.
To be my lawfully wedded wife.
I, Kacy, do take you, Cam.
I, Kacy, do take you, Cam.
To be my lawfully wedded husband.
To be my lawfully wedded husband.
On behalf of being a servant of God, and on behalf of the province of British Columbia, by the power invested in me, I do declare you man and wife. You Cam, you may kiss the bride.
All right, you guys are married.
We're married. It's official.
Look at that, it's official.
Bam! So how do you feel?
Really grateful, like to be with so many beautiful people here and just to celebrate with like our church family and family, really. Like, what does family mean? It's not just blood. So we're just so grateful and blessed that God is just like, I'm getting people come up to us saying how they're so inspired and how people need this. Someone has given me money. I'm like, this is so beautiful, you know?
Yeah, and like Pastor Lucia said, you guys are family. This is all your family now. So what do you want to say to the people that are watching, or maybe even other couples who feel really heartbroken that they haven't been able to have that wedding they really wanted because of the restriction?
For sure. I mean, what I would say is do it. Get married. It's about the holy matrimony that you're creating together as a partnership. And it's one of those things where, a year from now, whenever we're ready, we can buy another ring, renew those vows, have a beautiful party and another ceremony and a celebration, and really have that fairy tale wedding that, we dream about. But right now, what's important is coming together and really forming this partnership and this bond before ourselves, our family, our, God, and shout out to Mom, Dad, Mama, and Papa in Toronto. Sorry you couldn't be here, but we love you.
Yeah.
And we're just so grateful for this opportunity to come together. And it's one of those things that, don't be afraid. Like, just take that action. Do it. It feels so good. It feels so good to have that partnership.
Yeah.
Your relationship just like skyrockets to another level of what's possible.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful.
Amen.
Amen.
I spoke at a mega rally here just over a week ago, and this young couple were there, and they came up, they said, we heard your word saying we need to be right with God. We need to get married. So they came to my office. The next day was our worship protest. They came and gave their lives to Christ. And they says, but we need to be married. They showed up in my office Wednesday with a marriage license, and they said, when can we do this? I said, well, let's look at a date. They said, how about at the worship protest? I'm like, let's use a wedding as a protest. The government won't allow more than 10 at a wedding, yet you can have 1,000 people in Walmart where you're like, you know what? We did a wedding as a form of a protest with 300 people, and it was beautiful.
It's amazing. It really was. And also, there's lots of science to support that. Really, it's not that big of a risk to be outside when you're talking about COVID as well. Now, if you guys haven't seen Art and Heather before, you're going to want to type in Harvest Ministries and Rebel News and see their first report. There were so many people who just desperately needed your church doors to be open. And now I see you're continuing to do God's work and helping people celebrate marriage, which was created by God as well.
Jesus himself said marriage is between a man and a woman. We declare today the words of Christ. The two shall become one.
The wedding was beautiful. It was so normal. We're going to have a look around. We're going to chat with the bride and groom. We're going to chat with some of the people who watched and also some of the people who are just walking by to get their opinions on this protest wedding. But I want to point out that there really, to me, is no reason for there to be a restriction against people gathering outside for things like this. There's been an abundance of evidence. The World Health Organization said this.
It still appears to be rare that an asymptomatic individual actually transmits onward.
When Bonnie Henry was asked why there is different limits between how many can gather in one province versus the other, she said it wasn't based on science.
The bottom line is none of this really is based on science. It's based on our best effort to ensure that we're not having events like large conferences or groups or church meetings.
And we have studies that show with as high as 7,000 people that there's really no evidence of a huge threat being outdoors. So we'll get some opinions on the 10 only at weddings in BC.
God is broken. And great are you, Lord. It's your breath.
Was this your first protest wedding that you've ever been to?
Yes, nothing like it. Definitely worth coming. Yeah.
And so what do you think about BC's restrictions that say that only 10 people should be able to gather for weddings right now?
It's ridiculous. I don't think that should be a thing at all. Everyone needs to get together.
If you can go to Walmart and Costco and be packed with a bunch of people, we should be able to worship the Lord, especially outside, like the sun's shining. I don't see how we could be a threat to someone. Yeah,
that's utterly ridiculous. It's ridiculous. You can have more than 10 people living in one person's house. And I just think that's crazy. People are making a declaration before God, a life decision, and they want their family there with them. They want their friends to celebrate that special day. I think so many people are missing out on things like weddings and funerals. My mom passed away in December. We haven't been able to have her celebration of life.
First wedding I've seen in public here in Kelowna in the last 8 years I've been here.
Oh.
Yeah, it's kind of neat.
Yeah, it's definitely different. It's fun for us to cover as well. Has the city been pretty okay with these worship protests that have been happening weekly?
I have no idea about the city.
Yeah. So your role is to do what here today?
Keep the peace, make sure everybody's happy.
They're celebrating love, that's great, but I just hope they're doing it safely.
Well, there was some hugs, but it was kind of nice to see. We talked to the officers over there, and they said they had actually not seen a wedding take place at all here years before, and now during COVID it's happening. What are your thoughts?
A little bit of normalcy, I suppose, but if it's done in a safe manner, then who are we to say no?
We've been here 4 of the last 5 Sundays. Yeah. So just over a month, we've been meeting here. This is an official worship protest where we testify, where we give speeches, and we use our worship as a form of protest. And we're actually allowed to do it.
That seems to be a theme I'm seeing. It's happening at Jack Pool Plaza in Vancouver. And I always joke that the BC's government might regret the restrictions and give us back our churches. But how did you guys come to the decision to take it outdoors?
Well, it's something that we've always enjoyed doing anyways, especially when we were up north. And just coming to Kelowna, the weather's, beautiful here. So that was one reason. But just, we've been trying to comply as best we can with, the legislation. But we refuse to not have church. So when Judge Hinkson said that, he had to uphold the ruling of no church, but we could protest, it's like, okay, well then let's protest. The church is being closed by worshiping in the park and giving God the glory. And protesting, it's an official protest, but at the same time, we have the opportunity to worship in it. So it's kind of a neat atmosphere. Yeah.
We've been coming every week.
We can definitely feel like the Holy Spirit here, and the people are great here. Just everyone's so welcoming, especially in times of people who feel like anxious and are scared because of this virus. It's like more than ever people should be coming because of that. Yeah.
Yeah, and all the young people, it's like they need to stand up to this and come out because it's amazing. Yeah, they need to experience it.
Oh, this is incredible. We've been coming down here. We joined up with the Harvest Church a couple months ago. We've been coming to these worship protests, and today was just magnificent with so many people showing up, everybody worshiping and praising God, and just protesting that, this is what we're supposed to be doing. This is how Christians are supposed to come together, and then the wedding was just like the icing on the cake.
We just want to encourage everyone in Canada, any pastors who see this, you know what? Get the church together, go out, protest the lockdowns, protest the shutting down of the churches and the trampling of our Canadian Charter of Rights. It's your right, and I believe it's your duty to stand up and let your voice be heard. Bring your band outside, bring your worship outside, bring the prayer, the testimonies. And by the way, there's a lot of people who are waiting for you to open up and make a stand.
Agreed. Absolutely. This is not a time to shy back. It's, with what's happening in Alberta and, if the pastors in the churches would step out and say enough is enough, it would end a lot of this. And so I have to say, yes, absolutely. Come on, let's do this. It's not that complicated. And you'll be surprised at how much support you have. Don't be deceived by what people are saying. Nobody's going to back you. There's so many people. We have people all the time phoning us. I heard your meeting outside. Oh, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for doing it. And we're just here to protest and worship God. And His presence comes. And yeah, it's something we all need to do.
If you haven't already done so, please go to rebelnews.com. Big tech platforms like YouTube are trying to give us the boot. We want to make sure we keep in touch with you no matter where we bring you the other side of the story. So that's rebelnews.com.